But we have to get them comfortable in their carriers to be able to take them. Come on, Snuggles.
She isn't going for the churro.
There's your blanket in here. Snuggie.
This isn't working.
Welcome back to 6 Degrees of Cats, the world's #1 and only cat-themed culture, history, and science podcast, in which I, Captain Kitty, aka Amanda B., and my feline co-executive producers Binky, Snuggles, and Peanut navigate the weird, wild world from the past to the present with the help of an exceptional array of guest experts. All aboard! Hello, friends of 6 Degrees of Cats. Before we start, we wanted to give you the heads up. This episode will discuss domestic violence. If this topic is especially sensitive for you, we totally appreciate the need to listen another time, if at all. In the show notes, we've linked some past episodes you may want to check out instead, and some resources in case you or someone you know may need support. Please take great care. And now, the episode. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, the chimney in my childhood home caught fire. I remember being rushed into our family car, groggy and still in my pajamas. The rest of that night's kind of a blur, but I do recall asking my dad where Ribbons, our then maybe 2-year-old ginger tabby, was. And then, to my surprise and relief, feeling his little body circling my ankles. Somehow he found his way into the back seat of the car with me. Ribbons didn't accompany us to the Days Inn hotel that we stayed at for, I think, several days until the smoke damage was cleared and we were okay to return home. I think Ribbons was boarded at the local animal hospital a town over, which I'm sure was an expensive undertaking. So worth it, of course. Despite the fact that I was, and remain, the sole true cat person in the entire family on both sides, I mentioned I was adopted. It wasn't just me who considered Ribbons an important part of our family. Our home. And in this episode of 6 Degrees of Cats, we'll be thinking more about our little animal homies, if you will, and why it's so critical we include them in our homes. We'll be consulting with some incredible people helping both humans and felines stay sheltered, and there's going to be a special guest cameo. In my 21 years on this planet, I've lived in dozens of homes. Well, houses. What's that saying again? Home is where the heart is. Only 3 places have really felt like home. My childhood home in Michigan, my flat in Japan, and now my apartment in Brooklyn, New York City. It's hard to put my finger on what feels like home. Is it the lack of roommates, or the ability to decorate it how I want? Maybe it's the relative permanence of my stay. I mean, those 3 places represent the longest years I've ever stayed put. I think it's the fact that my home has always had kitties. Ribbons and Tibbins, my Michigan ginger tabbies. My little gray Japanese bobtail, Buzzy, and my born and bred scrappy New Yorkers, Binky, Snuggles, and Peanut. Well, actually, Peanut's a Jersey girl, but I guess Jersey people will claim New York, so we'll take it. Yeah, those kitties weight a lot of that anchor. I think this is reflected in how we refer to kitties as domestic house cats. Domestic as in domicile. House. Homes. That's kind of interesting. We call them house cats. For one thing, we don't call dogs house dogs or rabbits house rabbits or house birds. At least nobody I know does. And in the United States alone, there are 35 million abandoned or stray cats. They're homeless. That's actually nearly 6 times the number of homeless dogs, by the way. Why is that? Okay, so this is a cat-centered podcast, but for a hot second, we do need to talk about the simple cousin of cats. Canis, lupus, familiaris, expecto patronum, abracadabra, bippity-boppity-boop. As we've discussed in many seasons of this podcast, it's kind of inevitable, though. Dog ownership and dogs kind of set the template for how we view domestic indoor animal stewardship. Demographically, dog owners have the clear advantage. I mean, I live in Brooklyn, which is like the city of dogs. More and more, the expectation is that a dog is welcomed into homes and into public spaces. It's normalized to have them in more of these affluent bars, cafes, and even some of the restaurants near me. I don't snitch to the house department, don't worry. And of course, if you set foot in any grocery store or especially a pet supply store, dog supplies dominate the inventory catalogs. There's a very specific reason for this.
I don't mean this in a negative way, but this is the line, which is cats are pets of the poor, right? I'm a cat person, but I also think that our society looks at them differently than our dogs. I mean, 75% of revenues in veterinary practices are dog revenues. They only get about 30% cat revenues. So it's an underdog situation too. Our culture looks at cats differently, and cats are really an underdog.
That was one of the OG cat podcasters I'm super honored to know.
My name is Stacy LeBaron. I go by she and her. I do like to think of myself more like a feline optimist or a feline entrepreneur. The organization I am with is the Community Cats Podcast. I am head cat and host of the podcast. If you're a video person, YouTube is great. We have a lot of educational videos there for folks who really want to turn their passion for cats into action.
These days, we call cats on the streets community cats. They're houseless, and they too are incredibly difficult to quantify, despite the tireless efforts of those caring for, say, feral colonies or working in shelters. One of the main challenges that came up in researching homelessness, both in cats and humans across the world, is how difficult it is to clarify what that word actually means. Does it count people who lack permanent housing but are sheltered temporarily? How is that data collected? I'd like to be careful in not conflating these two parallel but distinct issues, of course. The circumstances and solutions for human problems are very different to those facing wildlife and the animals that we've brought into our homes and industries. The thing is, they do relate to each other in some ways. I'll let Stacy explain.
I think it's something like 60% of people feed cats that they don't know who the owners are. The source of our cat colony situation is an owned cat, Adam, and an owned cat, Eve. And, for whatever reason, the family cannot keep the cat. They cannot afford to get the cat spayed or neutered. Adam sprays in the house because he's unneutered, and Eve goes into heat because she's unspayed. So everybody gets upset because the landlord's going to evict them if they're spraying around the house. So they get thrown out. And that's where a community cat colony gets started. My dream is that every cat that needs support and access to care gets it all across the United States and beyond, all around the world. And so that is my ultimate goal in our programming, is being able to reach worldwide with solutions for cats and their families. Everybody in this world, I believe, if they have access to the appropriate resources, they're going to be able to take care of the animals in any community. And I think that we just need to be able to provide those tools for success and for sustainability. I use the word mosaic a lot. They need a mosaic of support of organizations coming in to help them above and beyond just cat groups or animal welfare organizations. We have to realize it's not just us. I respect people and organizations for doing their part because it's one piece of the bigger picture, and that it creates that full picture for us. It's just giving the general community enough information and access to resources to be able to support the families that love and care for them. I was involved with a project in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and went into the Board of Health, and they were like, we've got a huge cat problem, but we also have a huge rat problem too, and you need to help us with the rats and stuff. They have long lines at the food banks, but most of the folks, when they're getting food from the food banks, they're feeding that food to their pets. When you're starting brand new in a community, number one, you're trying to engage the community members and supporting the existing community resources. So if you've got food banks, local churches, and their supportive programs like Salvation Army, Red Cross, all of those organizations, you want to get involved with those players first and say, how can we support you support animals in the community? I'm also president of an organization called Positive Pantry, and in Vermont, we raise money to buy pet food, but the pet food is bought and distributed through the Vermont Food Bank. We have much greater capacity that way, and now Meals on Wheels is looking at doing a program with pet food. It just makes common sense that we don't have to create that whole operational system and structure. If we're going to have our cats and our dogs as part of our family, well, let's put the pet food and the medical resources, the veterinary resources, into that operational system.
It's holistic, collaborative, community-driven solutions that help make sure all mouths get fed sustainably.
There's so many stories of like children rescuing kittens and bringing them to the folks that are feeding the cats, and that just saying, I know you're the people who can get help for those cats. And if they're asking on behalf of that cat, then if something happens to them, they know that they can ask for themselves. Just by even having a presence within the community, there are resources if anything does happen.
One of the most important things about these concurrently beneficial solutions for humans and cats is, well, the community that they catalyze. The family, if you will, grows.
Cats play a role in neighborhood relations. You'll have two neighbors fighting one another over these cats, then you get them spayed and neutered, and you set up appropriate feeding stations and shelters, and then they're loving the cats. The cats are serving a purpose. I heard some statistic recently that like only 20% of people know who their neighbors are, because we all are on social media, and that's like our neighborhoods now. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, I did the paper collar thing, and now I know 10 of my neighbors, and it's great. And so now something else came up in the neighborhood, and they all were able to talk about it to resolve some issue or something. But it's like, oh my gosh, we have to have our community cats be the glue in our neighborhood so we can talk to each other again. The cats aren't going to post on Facebook, right? We're talking about compassion, humanity. It's just getting this back into humanly connect with one another. And I think these cats are providing that bridge for us.
What was I saying about how everything is connected? That's right. Our systems, our communities, all of us. And when it comes to our community cat neighbors, well, homelessness is a major crisis that both humans and feline kind unfortunately share. As a quick note, some people working in social services may use the terms unsheltered or houseless. But for the purposes of clarity, I'll use the imperfect but colloquially common term homeless to encompass those temporarily or long-term displaced and unsheltered. Right now, over 150 million people in this world are defined as homeless, though according to the World Economic Forum report in 2021, this number is likely underrepresentative. Speaking of representation, another thing that is really poorly represented is that homeless people are pet owners too. It's time to take a little bit more of a look at the folks who are generalized as the homeless, which we'll do after the break. Thanks to what our earlier season guest Trisha Hersey calls the death cult of rugged individualism, people without permanent housing are seen as incapable of caring for pets, and even undeserving of them. It comes down to a malingering attitude that I really hope we can eradicate.
I actually had an interesting conversation with another person saying economists consider cats and dogs luxury goods. And it's very interesting. So as your income goes up, the number of dogs you have go up. But as your income goes down, the number of cats you have go up. So it's very strange that cats are considered a luxury good, but as you have less income, you actually have more of them.
Crass comments about hoarders and mental health aside, I think there's also a more nuanced reason why people who have food and housing insecurity would still find space for the companionship of a cat.
Even though, we're entering the age of the adventure cat and cats being more outdoors and harness training in the backpacks and all that, I think they will always be a representation of the safety we feel at home and the sanctity of our home.
He's back. The paterfamilia Felis catus, aka the cat daddy himself, Jackson Galaxy.
I'm the cat daddy pretty much everywhere on social media. Find me on my YouTube channel where we put out brand new content every week, and look for me everywhere else.
Jackson doesn't just help individuals with extra spicy cats. He, like Stacy, sees cat welfare as a collective, community-based problem to solve together. And in Jackson's case, we're talking about the global community.
I'm working with the cats and their people just to make life as good as we can for the cats. And to that end, the Jackson Galaxy Project with Greater Good Charities, the approach is just to create a new framework for cats within sheltering and rescue, where the messaging is consistent, where we really advocate for cats in a unique way.
In Season 2, we had the chance to speak about rock and roll kitties, but we also discussed some of his work with people and pets who have been displaced.
When war broke out in Ukraine, we were on the ground waiting at the border with Poland to help those coming across the border. People with their animal family members in their arms as they crossed over the border. The animals are considered family members, and you wouldn't leave your family behind.
And yet, more often than not, the non-human members of our communities still just aren't accounted for when assisting displaced folks, who are, if temporarily, homeless.
We saw it during Katrina. The FEMA shelters, the Red Cross shelters did not allow animals. So we had stray animals and broken hearts across the U.S. It was really sad.
At the time of this recording, we are 20 years out from the tragic impact of Hurricane Katrina. Some 1,300 people's lives were lost, and countless pets were lost or left behind. It will take generations for many of the millions in that region who were impacted to recover, both from the economic impact and the trauma of losing their homes. There is no there. And yet, home can mean a lot of things. It may not mean a brick and mortar building. It may move around. Home can be found in community. It can be found through the love of your best friend, the one who doesn't judge you. The one you trust, who has carried you through trauma. Who's witnessed you in your best and worst moments. Who's cared for you in ways others cannot. Home is where those in our hearts reside. So for those surviving the trauma of homelessness, it's a profound mercy to have such an important part of their home and their history still with them. The problem of homelessness is systemic, and one of the leading causes of homelessness is also the most underreported. It's when people are forced to leave their home because the home itself is not safe.
There's a program called Rescue Rebuild, and they get big projects done in like a weekend. They swoop in. I work on the cat area. We redesign the shelters, and one of those things that we do is work on domestic violence safe houses and try to remove that barrier that you're talking about, because it really is sad.
I mean, the studies all show if there's any violence towards animals, violence towards kids and family members, the next step. So that definitely plays a significant role.
This form of violence is one of the most insidious contributors to the crisis of homelessness. I'd like to take a second to quickly define domestic violence, also known as intimate partner violence, or IPV. I'm going to use both terms interchangeably in this episode. According to the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs, IPV is a pattern of behavior where one intimate partner coerces, dominates, or isolates another intimate partner to maintain power and control over the partner and the relationship. IPV may be perpetrated in many different ways, including psychological and emotional abuse, economic abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, cultural and religious abuse, isolation, and intimidation. Often, the person causing harm and the people they're hurting share a domicile, hence domestic violence. What a terrible choice survivors face: homelessness or the terrors of living with the abuse in their own home. Survivors with fur family face additional barriers.
There are currently only about 250 shelters in the United States that are pet-friendly. That represents less than 20% of all shelters in the United States. Every minute, approximately 24 people in the United States experience domestic violence, and there are more than 10 million people who experience abuse annually. National, state, and local domestic violence hotlines receive more than 19,000 calls every day, which is more than 13 calls every minute. So the pervasiveness of abuse in this country, and obviously many others, is profound, and the impact on families with pets is incredibly high. So this is a crucial issue for us to focus on, because not being able to leave with a pet is an incredible barrier for people, especially for survivors.
I'm so grateful to have two guest experts from the Urban Resource Institute, or URI. I'll let our first guest introduce herself.
My name is Teal Inzunza. I use she and her pronouns. I am the Associate Vice President of Justice Initiatives at the Urban Resource Institute. URI has been in existence for 40 years and has been committed to ending domestic violence and homelessness in New York City. We have 15 domestic violence shelters, 10 of which are emergency shelters, and 5 of which are what we call transitional housing. Survivors are able to stay in those shelters for a longer period of time. PALS, the People and Animals Living Safely program, was founded in 2013 as a result of seeing the need of the community, hearing from survivors directly that they wouldn't leave an abusive relationship or situation if they couldn't bring their pets with them. Now we think that makes so much sense, but at the time, that wasn't something that was being talked about or understood.
Finally, a survivor-centered solution and a real response to the question so many survivors of domestic violence are asked. Why didn't they leave?
Intimate partner violence is the leading cause of homelessness in New York City. There is a housing crisis across the country, but especially in New York City, people aren't always able to find housing once they are timed out of domestic violence shelter. We worked with the National Domestic Violence Hotline to do a study and a survey of survivors. And we found that 50% of survivors said they would not leave an abusive relationship if they could not bring their pet into shelter with them. So if we think about the number that I said earlier, that's about 5 million people a year. So this is a need, this is a barrier for survivors to enter shelter, to escape abusive relationships, to seek safety.
The more clueless, callous among us might say, so what? It's just a cat. It's easy. But as we've been saying this whole time, in addition to being part of the family, our pets also serve as one of the most grounding, safe things in the home. That means so much for someone navigating through some of the worst moments of their lives.
I have had BB for every major turn of events in my life. He was given to me the first time my abuser ever hit me. We went to go adopt a cat. It was his apology to me. BB was there with me through all the abuse that I survived through my pregnancy. Eventually, I ended up with URI Pals, and I was very lucky to have him with me there. And I think he was meant to be a part of my journey. He's coming over here. He hears me talking about him. Yes, sir, come here. Come here, let me show you quick.
Folks, I am so proud to have connected with our next expert, entrepreneur and advocate Elizabeth Rose.
I am a former client of URI and the PALS program. I was in URI for almost 4 years. I stayed there while healing from spinal surgery, PTSD. Both myself and my daughter and my cat BB lived in URI in the shelter. Now I am an advocate for a couple organizations, URI, PALS. My dog is my home, and Women's Advocates of Minnesota. So I advocate for pet inclusive shelters and just domestic violence rights in general. My family history comes from a long line of trauma survivors, 3 generations specifically. So this is a very important topic to me.
Poverty, homelessness, and IPV. All cycles that are incredibly difficult to break out of in systems that reward the abuse of power and punish the poor. We have a lot of work to do. It comes down to the mosaic of support, as Stacy called it, which includes URI Pals. Thanks to them, folks like Elizabeth and Hazel were able to find home with BB, who is a rescue cat in so many ways.
I went through years of child abuse as well as the domestic violence. Having BB has been very supportive through my healing, my trauma, and my therapy. And I'm just so happy to have him. He means the world to me. He's like my best friend. He sleeps with me every night. He checks on Hazel, tours the house. He would hide when my abuser was around, and I noticed that. But when he would leave, BB would watch Hazel as a baby. I have pictures of him right next to Hazel at almost every event of her growing up. I love seeing him being a part of our journey. So I love him so much. I can't stop looking at him. He's so soft and furry and squishy. He makes me very happy.
We believe that pets are a part of the family, a critical part, a healing part, as Elizabeth mentioned. And we know how crucial it is that people stay together. Our tagline is stay together, heal together. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. The goal of all of our work is that everybody gets what they need to live the life that they choose. Many times survivors can't bring anything. They show up with nothing, literally the clothes on their back. Often when I've seen survivors move into their apartment, that's a time when they're the most emotional because you're learning for the first time what it's like to be in a space where you don't experience violence and you get to set it up the way you want to set it up. That often takes a period of time of grounding and reclaiming and being able to feel safe. It doesn't happen right away. Over time, people heal, and it's so grateful that people get to do that with their pets.
Something these survivors so deserve. Not just a bare bones safe house, a place of healing and rest. A place that can feel like home.
There's a lot of stigma around shelter, especially in a place like New York City. And we expect them to look dark and dirty and gross, but our spaces are really beautiful and they're meant to be healing, truly. When we started building shelters in this way, there was some feeling like, oh, it's too nice. People won't want to leave because they're too fancy. And we responded by saying, we want folks to feel at home here. We want to feel like if our family member had to enter shelter for some reason, somebody we loved, we would feel good about having them here. So really, our philosophy around shelter is creating these healing spaces.
And the PALS program continues to creatively integrate these accommodations into other systems to help keep more families off the streets, including their fur family members.
We knew that once folks left our domestic violence shelters, that they aren't able to bring their pets with them unless they have a service animal or an emotional support animal. And even then, it could be challenging because some of these laws are not always understood by folks in doing intakes or understanding how those things work. So over the last year, we've done a pilot project with the Department of Homeless Services to run PALS in one of our Department of Homeless Services family shelters. And we got permission to move survivors who were timing out of domestic violence shelter into one of our homeless family shelters. We worked with Department of Homeless Services to do that referral process, ensure that they could stay with their pets and remain in homeless family shelter united with their family, which has been a revelatory experience. We've heard from members of DHS that before this, they maybe didn't know as much because, of course, you don't always know what you don't know. And through this process, they've really been such a committed partner. And we're super grateful for them taking a chance on this pilot and really embracing it fully.
From the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful for folks like Stacy, Jackson, and Teal working in community on sustainable solutions to the problems of homelessness and poverty, both for humans and felines. No one solution is whole, complete, or perfect. But together, we form, in Stacy's words, the mosaic of support. Or, if you want to call it something else,
A community cat quilt or something like that.
I also want to thank survivors everywhere. Thank you for surviving. We need you in this world, you know? And on that note, here's some of Elizabeth, Hazel, and Bibi's story.
I went through a lot of physical, violent abuse that both my daughter and I went through. And I don't remember a lot of being a parent for when she was 0 to 2 years old. I escaped him when she was 2. It was a 6-month period emergency shelter before I went into a family long-term shelter for 3.5 years. My first night in shelter, my abuser was threatening to throw my cat out. I was in more of a shock state, so I couldn't even understand that this was just another abusive tactic. I was just leaving this situation. I hadn't been diagnosed with PTSD, but the program at URI assisted me. They said, you're going to go to the local precinct near where BB is, grab a police officer, go get him. And when I came back to shelter, URI had literally everything for me. And actually, when I had my spinal surgery, in the shelter, they're the ones that bought him the electric litter box that I still have today. And it's like 5 years old and it still works. But that was to assist me during that time when I went from a walker to a cane I'm just very thankful to have BB because he's healed me physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't remember holding my daughter. I don't. All that abuse I went through. So being able to have a baby that I can hold every day, because that's like something he heals in me too. While I was in shelter, I also faced a lot of stigma. I do have a whole bachelor's degree in fashion design. I had friends, but those friends did not understand homelessness. They unfortunately stopped inviting me to things, made me feel like I wasn't a friend, but I always had BB. I mean, even one time I slipped and fell and he came running to me. And I think that is the beauty of cats, is they can also share their emotions without verbally being able to tell you. In my new home out of shelter, he's been beneficial for my daughter. She's growing into some hormones and she's experiencing some more anger outbursts. And I'm like, Hazel, I think you should go take BB for a walk. And she does. She does it around our backyard, and that helps her heal too. So we go on walks with him now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Hazel. And thank you, BB. Thank you, listeners, for witnessing these important messages and stories. This episode is being published during the month of October, which in the United States is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This was heavy stuff, so in the show notes, I've also put a link to a body scan exercise that you can do in a few minutes after you stop listening, just in case it's helpful. I know this impacts all of us, if not directly, someone you know. So take great care. And get ready. We'll be heading back to Egypt and stopping over to Peru for our season finale. I want to thank my wonderful experts,
Stacy LeBaron,
Jackson Galaxy.
Teal and Zunza.
and
Elizabeth Rose.
while the opinions are my own, the research and work is theirs. If you'd like to learn more about them, please check out our show notes, which also include the references and research that went into this episode. And if you loved it, please do continue leaving those lovely 5-star reviews and kind words on review forums, Reddits, and in DMs to influential people who must know about this now award-winning, quirky cat-themed culture, history, science, and nature podcast. If you would like to see a season 4, please consider sponsoring or donating to the podcast. Visit ko-fi.com/6degreesofcats or see the show notes on how to keep SS 6 Degrees of Cats afloat. We're all part of this mosaic of support, because remember, everything is connected. 6 Degrees of Cats is produced, written, edited, and hosted by yours truly, Captain Kitty, aka Amanda B. Please subscribe to our mailing list by going to linktr.ee/6degreesofcats or look us up on all those social media platforms. You'll be first in line for the extra audio and more treats if you connect with us there. All episodes are dedicated to the misunderstood, the marginalized, the resilient, and the weird. And of course, all the cats we've loved and lost.
I was supposed to be a guitar player. My parents were huge doo-wop people. You know, my mom being from New York and being steeped in that culture, and my dad being an immigrant, who that represented sort of like the American dream in a way. I was probably 13. I bought a twin reverb. It's an amazing amp. Billy Zoom from X got a hold of that thing and turned it into like a jet engine. When I first moved to LA, so broke. My girlfriend at the time was a pet sitter, and I had to work for her for a while. Her cat needed what's called the PU surgery. And if he didn't get the surgery, he was absolutely going to die. And so we got this close to that amp having to be sold in order to save him until this kick-ass vet spotted me. I saved his life. Yeah,